So, Antonio, I think Antonio, as we suggested in the morning before dividing us into various groups, so we were talking about one of us, two of us, the facilitators, one of us become the moderator, and then the other one takes notes. So, but since we have CD volunteering to take notes for us, I'll just moderate like you. Since you're going to start the first presentation, and we introduce ourselves quickly, 15 seconds each. Let me start by myself, then we continue. My name is Babu Karnyang. I work for Child Fund International de Gambia, but I'm a board member of Activista de Gambia and also a youth activist.
Okay, I'll start there. I'll go next. I'm CD. I work at Mines. So yeah, but I'm very interested in election participation, and hopefully one day I can also be a young person in parliament.
Okay, so my name is Antonio. I'm from Cape Verde Islands in West Africa, Atlantic. I'm volunteering with an organization that is engaged in the small island developing states, which is called SIA Cape Verde. And I'm also alumni of Mines. I participated in the annual dialogues and also in the elections and governance workshop. Eventually with some of the colleagues that are here in this webinar today with us. My pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you.
I am Enoch Nguranga. I am currently based in Uganda, and I am an alumni of the Mines. I am very passionate about youth participation in elections and governance, and mentoring young people in the areas of leadership development and personal growth. I'm happy to be here.
Hello, I am Geoffrey from Kenya, currently a Mines scholar at Carnegie Mellon University. And for me, integrity and accountability issues in politics are my interest. So Sunday can go next.
Bonjour.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunday Jacob Wanyu from Nigeria. I'm Sunday from Nigeria. I'm a Mines scholar currently studying at Carnegie Mellon University, Africa. And I'm interested in leadership and ethical politics.
Je suis du Nigeria. Je suis ici voilà, dans le groupe de leadership.
By the way, the background information you're hearing is the interpretation, so don't be bothered by it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Senyo Chikota from Ghana. I'm a governor from policy.
Mon nom c'est Albert, je vous appelle où je suis Ghanéen.
I believe in the youth, and basically I'm here to contribute to the discussion on Mines. Thank you.
Je suis ici pour contribuer à la discussion, à tout ce qui se dira dans ce groupe. Merci.
Okay, my name is Enodias. I'm a Mines scholar. I'm studying LLM at
Je m'appelle Enodia.
I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Je suis ici pour participer à la discussion.
Hello, I am Mohamed Ibrahim Bangura from Sierra Leone. I am currently
je m'appelle Mohamed,
a Mines scholar at CMU. I'm very interested in leading movements that will allow all Africans to have access
à tout ce qui touche aux Africains, au leadership,
fundamental rights, basic fundamental human rights. I'm excited to be here.
Je suis très heureux, très content de me retrouver dans ce groupe.
Good day, good morning,
Bonjour,
depending on the side of the country that you're in.
bonjour,
My
bonsoir, ça
name is
dépend de là où
Awe
vous êtes. Je
Sosibo.
m'appelle Sosibo,
I'm from South Africa.
je suis d'Afrique du Sud.
I'm part of an organization called GCI Centen. I'm interested in issues that have to deal with freedom of expression, as well
suis
as
intéressé
media law.
par,
I am an attorney by profession. Thank you.
je suis intéressé par le débat du groupe. Merci.
All right. Thank you very much. I think all of us have introduced ourselves, isn't it? Is that right? Perfect. Good. So, Antonio,
Merci beaucoup. Tout le monde s'est présenté, c'est déjà bien. Merci.
I'll just leave Antonio to start the presentation from his end.
Je vais laisser Antonio pour commencer voilà, la présentation.
Right. Antonio, the presentation is now with you.
Antonio, vous
Yes,
avez
thank you.
la parole.
Thank
Merci.
you very much, Boubacar.
Boubacar.
I don't know if I have the right channel, but I hear both my and the French immediately. Is that how it's supposed to be, or is any unfunctionality?
Yes, so there is there is an interpretation at the background. That's why you're hearing the French for our colleagues in the Francophone countries.
Okay, is any French speaking in the audience?
Yes.
Okay, so I will try to go slow then.
Please.
Well, I thank you to all for joining this panel. I'm going to be very brief, and I'm trying to be also interactive, so that we can also enrich the exchange together. So, firstly, I'm gonna provide a little background about Cape Verde elections. So we are in a complex process, actually, because of the pandemic, and 3 elections that have been through the year. So the pandemic started around March, April last year, and a few months afterwards, we have the districts, municipality elections in the country, which were a good way to see how to organize as a first time in a pandemic context. And then a few months later, in April this year, we had the parliamentary elections. So the elections where we choose the members of parliament, which they choose the prime minister. And finally, later in October, we will be hosting the presidential elections, which are direct elections to President of the Republic. That means 3 elections in sequence in a context of pandemic, with all the new challenges that these are supposed to the situation.
Avec la situation de cette pandémie, nous avons un grand défi à relever concernant les élections.
So the first, the municipal elections went well. There was quite a good number of youth engagement, and we get also young people into the municipal government. So just to give you the context, Cape Verde is in process of decentralization. So that means the central power is decentralized into the 22 municipalities of the country, so that the government and the administration get closer to the citizens and communities. So the tendency that more and more competence are decentralized towards the local governments. There was some change in parties, and actually in Praia, the capital city, there was a change of party, and capital city amounts nearly a third of the population of the country, so is one of the most important municipalities. Then there was the parliamentarian elections, which are the ones that select the prime minister through the members of parliament, as Cape Verde is a parliamentarian system. So our way of government is not a presidential like the US or France. Is a parliamentarian, which is a closer model, let's say, to Germany, Italy, or Portugal, where the prime minister is the head of the executive power, and the president of the republic remains more a kind of symbolic and diplomatic and representativity of the country. So the government day-to-day work is done by the prime minister, which is elected by the members, by the majority of the members of the parliament. Again, we managed to secure some people into the parliament, the major political parties. And what we saw was, on the one hand, the campaign was quite active. Because of that, there was also a spike of COVID cases after the parliamentarian elections, which really affected the country and the economy. And obviously, because of that, the participation needed to be handled in a different way, on the sense that there was more virtual and online interaction. So that component of the elections acquire a larger importance in the elections process because of this situation. So we could observe more activity on Facebook, particularly comments, interaction, and all the same time political campaigning through the social media. And then now we are heading towards the presidential elections, which are supposed to be in October, if everything is going well. And then those candidates are independent, and some of them may be endorsed by a political party, but it's not a requirement that you need to be from a political party to become a candidate for the presidency of the republic. So this is quite an interesting approach, because that limited and opens the opportunity to any citizen who has some kind of endorsement to become a candidate for the presidential elections. Okay, are you following me, by the way?
Yes, sorry, I just messaged Blaise to do the interpretation via text so that you can talk freely.
Oh yeah, that was nice. It was a little bit disrupting because I speak both, so I was listening to myself twice.
Oh no, please, yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay,
we're definitely getting you. Yeah.
Great. So how are we managing time? We still have some more minutes. Can we open a bit the floor for some questions or interactions? And then I continue.
There was a session for that. I think it was you speak 5 minutes, I'll speak 5 minutes, and then we have the 30 minutes discussion.
Okay. So from my side, I think that the content is already provided. Eventually, I can stop right now, and through the discussion, I can go more in deep to what the colleagues in the audience will be interested to know or to understand about the process in Cape Verde and the youth participation and the things you would like to know about. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Antonio, and thank you for that presentation, putting it into context and helping us understand what is happening in Cape Verde. Like I introduced myself earlier on, my name is Babukar Nyang. I am from the Gambia and I am board member of Activista. I'm also a Minds alumni. I've attended the Minds dialogue. I've attended the Minds conference, a workshop on elections and governance, and I've also attended the Minds train of the trainers, like TOT for elections and governance in Rwanda as well. Basically, I have been with Minds for some time now. So today our presentation is going to be centered on youth participation in election equity and peace advocacy. I think you all know that the Gambia is from a dictatorial regime. It was a country that was under the dictatorship of former President Yahya Jammeh for the past 22 years. So after that, the country hosted and built a new democratic dispensation using the people's voice, and that was the vote. Since independence, Gambia has never have a peaceful transfer of power. It was after the independence. All along, we had coup d'etats, and then there were 3 failed coup d'etats with other plots that happens in between the line until the people decided that they were so tired, and then they voted. So I'll have to put that into context and also have to put this whole situation of having youth to participate in elections and also the peace advocacy. I'll just have to give a small history of what happened during the what we call the political impasse in the Gambia, when we had a serious tension and problems that occurred. And then in that country, a very small country of less than 2 million, then or almost 2 million people were.
Hello, Yang. Please, can you slow down?
Okay. So, sorry about that. You're right. Seems there's an interpretation. Okay. So the issue there was you tend to realize that it was a country that was about 2 million people, and then it was going to into a political tension, and that is the political impasse. So now what happens was the youth took up the mantle of leadership in order to ensure that sanity happens. Like Dr. Moya said, 3 things happen. You have to register, you have to vote, and then you have to defend the vote. How will you do that? It's by participation, by peace advocacy, and also ensuring that there is an equity in the process. That is, youth have the right to vote, because every young person have the right to exercise their franchise. In order to be included in the process, they have to vote like it is mentioned in the UNHCR, and then also call for effective participation. So when the young people came out in their numbers and vote, what happened was they ensured that they restored democracy. There were a lot of noise, a lot of people, soldiers coming out, but the youth maintained peace and stood up to defend the vote. They've never come out as a violence. Instead of protesting, what they did was definitely to ensure that the youth were mindful of engaging people whom you know that they've worked with dictatorship. So now, fast forward, we are having elections in 2021 December. After 5 years, expectations were not met at some times, because as well as we all knew that youth are the biggest numbers as well, sometimes also they become reluctant in participating. And that was shown in the National Assembly elections. Although we had the not too young to run, where some young folks participated, however, others were reluctant to participate. So now that we have this position, what is the youth position in ensuring that there is a fair and free elections in the country? One, we have seen that the Independent Electoral Commission of the country was giving data of men and women, but failed to produce the data of the youth. That to us, that is not equity, because if, for example, youth who we claim to be biggest number in the country cannot know how they should get their data, it becomes an issue. So us as young people, what we did was we stood and wrote to the Independent Electoral Commission to say we want the youth data. So as colleagues in other African also, sometimes we always make the noise, we are the biggest, but we also need to ensure we have proof of us being the biggest by either being seen ourselves participating or we have evidence of it. So now that the data was segregated from men and women, the number of men registered in each constituency and the number of women registered in each constituency, forgetting youth rather gives us a room for us to complain. So that is also very, very important. So in also for us to have a free and fair elections and also upholding human rights and maintain peace for both during, after, and in the elections, we also need to ensure that there is a free and open participation of all electoral stakeholders such as parties and candidates, because this can only be done through debates and through engagement between politicians. And we need to ensure that also the media is independent. So us as young people needs to defend the votes using those strategies. We are the only power to make them. We have our Facebook, we have our Twitter, we have our Instagram. How could we ensure that we use the media to ensure that there is the right to freedom of the media? That is the media, for example, which is the state-owned media, is used independently to give time allocations to all people whom you know that they are part of this sector. That we could do. And how we could do it, for example, in the Gambia, what we used, there was a time when a media house was trying to do a censorship of some programs. So we all selected a time of saying, okay, using means of going to Facebook and calling them out on Twitter. So they've stopped that. So these are ways that we could do, and then we will not now become the protesters, but the voters. And then in being voters, not only casting your vote, but also process of ensuring that there is a free and fair election. Because if there is no free and fair election, that is where you have violence now, which will now lead to other issues which can cause problems. So to ensure that there is a free and fair election, also that we need to ensure that access to information by voters. The voters, the capacity of the electorate should be built to ensure that they understand what they need to do, how to do it, and when to do it. And this should be accompanied with the consistent and coherent messaging. For example, the access to all voting voters, including those living with disability. People with disability need to trust those that they're guiding them, so that there will be peace, in order to ensure that after the voting, the person will be differently able, will not accuse you of not voting for him or her for the right candidate. So mechanisms should be put in place. And also electoral violence should be mitigated by ensuring that there is freedom of assembly. All political candidates should be allowed to conduct their rallies, meetings, and politics without interference. And that should be done in accordance with the electoral laws. So for us in the Gambia, the context of our electoral system is now being changed because we are still in the simple majority. And when I say the simple majority, I mean, we all know that is if you lead by one vote, you lead by one vote. And that we have failed also to ensure that we defend the transitional justice that we fought for after the peaceful transfer of power in 2016. So that brought also a constitutional crisis, which the IDEA International, which is headed by Prof. I was also the youth leader, the part of the facilitator of the process between the political parties, the government, and the National Assembly members. So I was identified by IDEA International to be part of those facilitators, the youth facilitator, which I was part of with Professor Adebayo, who just spoke now. And then you tend to realize that most of the issues that came out from that trend is the youths were not coming out to say issues that affects them until there was a time that we had issue that the constitution was not going to pass in parliament. That now makes of the amendments, the issues that were all going to be part of, included in those things were not captured. So the noise was behind. How could we participate? This is the fundamental question that we need to put in place to ensure that we only participate, not also only on Facebook, not also only on Twitter, not also only on Instagram, but also participate by ensuring we attend meetings, We attend sittings at the councils, even if possible, if your law allows you to attend National Assembly sittings, go ahead and attend. So for now, this is what we have as the topic that was given to me to present on. For the 5 minutes, not to also destroy, but as along the discussion, we could discuss so many other things. And if you have questions about what happens in our country and what is coming to happen again, coming 21 December elections, I'm free and available to give explanations to that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Babuka. Like, that was very insightful, and thank you for sharing a part of your context, you and Antonio. So yeah, I'm really sorry that we've run out of time, but we have extended the session to 15, like 3:15, so that we can open the floor and we can have a discussion on the ethical leadership. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say from a Minds perspective. Does anybody want to have any questions for the alumni, or just want to make a comment or question around ethical leadership? Okay, I see two hands, Senor and Albert. So I think Senor is first, so I'll give Senor the floor first. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kitty. My question first goes to Antonio. In his presentation, he said that the presidency is a symbolic sort of person, and then the prime minister does all the work. Then, if the presidency is a symbolic person, has the president got responsibilities per the constitution of Cape Verde, or is it just symbolic and ceremonial, and for that matter, not much responsibility is given to the president? And if that is so, then what is the motivation for people to contest to become president? And also, my second question to Antonio is, what is the concept of decentralization in Cape Verde? Is it decentralization corruption or decentralization leadership? Because sometimes decentralization leads to decentralized corruption from the center to the districts. It's corrupt. So is it decentralization leadership in terms of efficient leadership, ethical leadership, or decentralization corruption? I'll come back later to ask Nyang some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Senor. That was, I really liked that question about decentralized corruption. So I think maybe Antonio, you can quickly answer that, and then Albert will ask his question, and then Mohammed will ask his question.
Okay. Thank you so much, Senor. I think the very pertinent questions and very interesting. Well, the President of the Republic is basically, it has a role. There's some noise around. Yeah, so it has a role of signing. So any decree or law which is passed by the parliament or by the government needs to be signed by the President of the Republic. So that is normally an automatic process that happens in a natural way, but there are eventual exceptions that happens in the past where the President noticed that the will of the people is not what, it doesn't match what was being passed through the law, and then it can stop it. And that was the case, for instance, some years ago, the parliamentarians agreed to rise up their salaries, and I think it was a very few occasions where there was unanimity on the parliament, as all of them agreed to that, and they move ahead. But then there was a big contestation on the society, on the streets, because, you know, it was crisis time, it was the people, and I don't think it was the right moment to for that. So the President of the Republic noticed that was against the general will, and he didn't sign it. So finally, the law went back to parliament and it was not approved anymore. So, well, it has some kind of power, as you see. It has also kind of a moral leadership, which is about the normal politics of government. So it plays that role. It may have some advantage and disadvantage if we compare with the presidential systems. But for instance, our president cannot destitute the prime minister, which in other countries that can happen, and it also leads to instability. So, well, it's an approach of the system. Then regarding decentralization, well, we need to understand that in a long process. It's not something that just comes suddenly and is implemented. It's a very long process, and it goes together with the context of the country. So I don't think all countries are at the same stage, and all of them are ready for the same processes at the same as the citizens. So once the country achieves a certain maturity in terms of democracy and a good governance, when you decentralize, it helps to approach government to the communities. But if you don't have that a strong civil society that makes accountable the government, and if you don't have an active youth that plays also their role, I do understand your point that it can lead to further corruption and other problems. But when it's handled in a right way, and you know, it is monitored, I think it helps, and at least in the case of giving more funding and more competence to municipalities, have helped it a lot on the country. It's true that it's also related to the history and to the balance and to the how the political context is organized in the country, and it may vary. But yeah. So, well, we have to wrap up. I could give much more on that, but I think let's give the voice to the other colleagues. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio. That was great. So we only have 5 minutes left. So Albert, can you keep your question, and Mohammed, can you please keep your questions like very, very brief so that we can get a chance to answer it. So Albert, it's your go. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Are you getting me?
Thank you. Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Keep going.
All right, thank you. I wanted to know, I've not been with you. So I want to know how much influence does the Minds organization have? How much influence do you have in ensuring that there's ethical and there's free and fair elections, ensuring that for them to understand their role in politics and voting? What role are you playing, or how much influence done so far? And then I know that most of the times as young people, especially in Africa, we've had organizations come, we talk, things there. Well, I want to know how far you gone in terms of steps, according that these things we're discussing about the role of young people. How much?
Thanks, Albert. Sorry, it cut out a bit. I just wanted to ask you, the question you're asking is how much influence does who have in terms of getting free and fair elections? Who are you asking?
Yes, how much influence do you have in ensuring that there's ethical leadership in countries, and then in ensuring also that there's free and fair elections in countries? And then I also want to know, how are you ensuring that there's a sensitization in Africa among young people for them to know their rights of voting?
Okay, great. So who should is that Babuka who should answer
Siri,
that?
I think he was referring to Minds, but I could definitely assist because at least I have some historic.
Yes, okay,
Yes,
thank
I'm,
you. Babuka, please do it 1 minute so that then Mohammed can answer.
All right, thank you very much, Albert. I think the influence is in the training of the people, and I will use myself as an example. When I was going to Ivory Coast, I did not show my identity that I was going to learn issues on elections, because then if I come back to my country, they were going to investigate me. So I said I was going out for a youth program, and that was the youth program. When I came back, I realized that it was important for us to do a grassroots mobilization, and that grassroots mobilization has to be initiated by us. So to me, I think the influence is not directly in the member state, because mine is also an NGO or an organization that works on principles and has its mandates. So it's not like, for example, international idea, it's not like the UN, it's not like the AU that has those influence on the member states. Instead, it can only happen on the people that it trains, like, for example, its alumni, its members, its scholars, who could use the values, the ethics, and also the principles that are inculcated in them to transfer among other colleagues in other African members. But I can definitely tell you also, in 2016, in August, precisely after coming from Tanzania, and with all the experiences from our other colleagues who were having difficulties in dictatorship, I knew that the learning that I've got from those people, from Minds also, was able to, help me risk the life of even creating WhatsApp group and community mobilizations, in which in our country, then there was no WhatsApp without using VPN. It was banned. Facebook at the end of the day also, at one point in time, was stopped, and then, so many other things. So what we did was risking youth and then participation to ensure that we get to that. And that was through the direct influence of mine to me, not as a member state or other countries. Yes.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you. That's a really good answer. So Mohammed, quickly, I think before.
Yes, I think I'll just give a comment instead because we don't have a lot of time. Yeah, so we had a very interesting thing in Sierra Leone a few years back when the president fired the vice president. I'm sure this falls within this topic here. What I was going to ask is more of like how my question was going to go to Antonio. How do you think as young people right now who want to go into politics, what things do you think we should be doing right now to ensure that we build a culture of accountability, like holding people accountable even while they are in power? We can discuss this some other time, or I can follow up with a message. But yes, this is basically a topic that I wanted us to discuss, because it's very unique to Sierra Leone.
Thanks, Mohammed. That's a really good one. I've written that down.